It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Oh, yes, Mzansi, welcome back. It's your feel-good breakfast show, and this is a show that's going to remind you to open up your mouth and smile and give you a way to do that with confidence. Because when it comes to our mouth, it's not just about fresh breath. It's also about protecting our teeth and gums for a lifetime. Now, today we're going to break down how important it is to completely clean with a 3-step routine. And here to lend their expert advice is practicing oral hygienist and president-elect of the Oral Hygienist Association of South Africa, the one and only Cole Gilbert in the building.
He steps into the ring,
the honor, man.
Thanks so much.
How's
Thanks,
it, Dr. Cole? Lovely to have you on the show this morning. I'm glad we're talking about this because I do feel that when it comes to our mouth hygiene, we do need constant reminders because it's a habit that we need to form. But we are here to talk about a 3-step routine, right? So unpack it for us. What is this very important 3-step routine, and does it differ if we take a look at your morning and your evening routines before bed?
So this 3-step routine, put simply, just involves brushing, flossing, and making use of a mouth rinse.
Okay.
So that's almost completing that cycle of our oral hygiene regime. Is there a difference between morning and evening? I generally tell my patients, try and pay more attention to your evening regime because we've got more time on our hands in the evening.
Okay.
Mornings are generally more rushed. Also, why we want to brush in the morning is because during the night when we sleep, we've got a decrease in our salivary flow. And with that decrease in salivary flow comes an increase in plaque accumulation. So you almost want to get rid of the plaque that's built up during the night, as well as that bacterial load that has built up. And in the evening brushing, you want to get rid of everything that's built up during the day.
All right.
I want to chat about flossing very quickly because this is something that I think a lot of people lie to their dentists about.
Definitely.
And I'm guilty of that. It's like when I go to the dentist, like, are you flossing? It's like, yeah, I do. But I mean, obviously you guys can tell, right?
We can. We do.
Yeah, so there's telltale signs. Is it a case of once a day or once a week, or what is your recommendation?
So it does form part of that twice-a-day thing. So
really?
to complete that 3-step routine, I would rather have someone do it once a day than not,
At all. Okay.
So do what's manageable.
Right.
I love this 3-step routine. I think it really simplifies things, and I think for even youngsters, you can get a song going, or you can kind of like really get this to be a family occasion. But maybe let's highlight the benefits. I know you briefly touched on each sort of step and what it's doing, but talk to me about how it really is preventing all the bad stuff and promoting good oral hygiene with each step specifically.
Yeah. So if we look at brushing, we know that, or we first actually have to look at how plaque forms and why we want to get rid of it. So on our teeth, surprisingly, soon after we brush, we have what we call a pellicle layer that forms on our tooth structure. Pellicle layer.
Pellicle layer.
And this layer is both protective in nature because it protects our teeth from any acid attack, but it's also the initial building block of plaque. Okay, and this plaque can become more dangerous or bring in some more bad bacteria if it's not removed, and that's what we call calculus. All right, so some people might have felt it behind their lower front teeth. It's this hard stone-like substance that sits behind your tooth, and it's basically plaque that hasn't been removed for X amount of days. And research tells us that this can happen anything from 6 days to 14 days, with bulk of that calcification happening at around day 12. And that's why it's so important to be brushing and flossing consistently as well. And you might say, but Cole, no one's really not going to brush their teeth for 12 days, and we surely hope so. But let's say you didn't floss for 2 weeks. There are areas in your mouth that plaque has not been disturbed, and that can then calcify into calculus and bring in more harmful forms of bacteria into the oral cavity as well.
Yeah, you see, it just becomes apparent now why the 3-step process is so important on daily.
On daily, Consistency is key.
I have a retainer at the back of my lower teeth over here, bro. I have to work that thing constantly because this is exactly what occurs if I don't. And it's crazy how quick it actually happens without you thinking, especially those tough to get and hard to reach areas. So I'm really seeing the importance in this, man. This is something that really does make sense, actually.
And it's like consistency is key. We know with our bodies and with our diets and exercise, the same goes for our teeth. And the 3-step program, I can almost call it, that you need to follow morning and at night if you have the time. And I think we need to invest a little bit more time in our mouths. It's very important. But what about things like, you know, people in general, the 3-step program is great, but then there might be people that really suffers from halitosis or infected gums or whatever. How do they tailor this 3-step program differently, or is it the same thing in general up until you get to a healthy point?
So we always say a 3-step routine is routine for people that want to maintain oral health. But if you're already at a disease state, then we need some professional intervention. So let's say you've already reached a point where there is calculus buildup on their teeth or under the gums, then unfortunately we need that hard reset and you need to visit the oral health professional and get a proper cleaning done by your hygienist. Okay. And then we can put you on or back onto a normal 3-step routine.
All right. Now, we've spoken about, obviously, the things we don't want to build up. We haven't even gotten to the point of mouthwash yet, because I want us to discuss that. Where does this lie in terms of its importance in this process? I mean, obviously, brushing and stuff makes sense because we're getting rid of a lot of that, but then isn't the job pretty much done?
So when we look at the numbers, it gets quite scary. We know that brushing alone removes only about 53% of plaque on our teeth.
Oh, my word.
And that's where we need some floss. So now we've introduced floss, but we know that the compliance with flossing isn't great. So research tells us that 10 to 30% of people floss their teeth, which means almost 2 of us are not flossing, and I'm not going to make eye contact. So it then calls for an adjunct like a mouth rinse. And that's where the mouth rinse comes in, because the magic of mouth rinse is that it breaks down the cell wall of the bacteria and it slows down the progression of plaque almost. Okay. And that just almost completes that cycle for us.
I understand the rinsing part. I've got another question for you in terms of when you're brushing or wet. Let's say you have a fizzy drink, right, before bedtime. Is it advisable to go and brush directly after that? Because I've also heard some people say that don't first rinse with water first out, you know, and then go about brushing and rinsing with the mouthwash, because you can actually damage it, or you can brush in the sugars or anything like that and damage the enamel. Is that true?
That is true. So anything acidic, anything that you're eating, carbohydrates, anything, is going to affect the pH in our mouth. As soon as the pH drops, is with anything we do eat, our mouth is acidic. And any vigorous brushing can cause damage to our enamel.
How's that?
So you want to be rinsing immediately after, if you can, and then waiting at least 20 minutes just for the pH balance to happen in your mouth, and then brush. Okay? So people generally have a cup of coffee in the morning, race out, brush their teeth immediately. We say rather rinse, and then give it some time, and then brush.
Wow. Great information coming through here. Thank you so, so much. And Mr. Gilbert, I think that this is a conversation that a lot of us should be having more of. This is something we should welcome. So Mzansi, I hope you've been paying attention. I hope you got your 3 steps secured, because that is something that clearly is more important than I think any of us even realize. So I can say I'm educated after that, bro.
We are not sharks, and we can't grow more teeth. So you might as well look after it right now for the long run and really establish that routine, that consistency. So brush, floss and mouthwash. Very, very important. And then you'll be flushed with nice teeth.